1998, LucasArts and Factor 5 released Star Wars Rogue Squadron for the Nintendo 64 and Windows PC. Unlike, say, X-Wing/TIE Fighter series of games, which are flight simulators in vein of, well, Microsoft's Flight Simulator, it is a more simplistic arcade-like experience in that you have just a simple set of controls to work with, all the while giving you more freedom to move your fighter during mission. Following that, Factor 5 would release Battle for Naboo for the N64 and PC as well in 2000. The other sequels, Rogue Leader and Rebel Strike, however, did not get a PC release and were instead exclusive for Nintendo's then following system, the GameCube. However, LucasArts would release a substitute of sorts for the PlayStation 2 a few months prior to Rogue Leader's launch, with the Xbox version coming months later and a PC version in 2002. Said game was called Star Wars Starfighter. Like Battle for Naboo, the story of the game is yet another side story to the Phantom Menace, but with 3 different characters playable rather than one. One is Royal Naboo's star pilot Rhys Dallows, another is mercenary Vanna Sage, and a smuggler named Nim. Each have their own unique ships to pilot, such as the N-1 Starfighter for Rhys, the Guardian Mantis for Vanna Sage, and the Havoc Bomber for Nim. While on a mission to escort Padme Amidala to meet with Trade Federation officials, Rhys Dallows and his mentor Isara Till are ambushed by a mercenary group under contract from the Trade Federation, with Rhys losing his mentor after the battle. Vanna herself gets double-crossed by her Trade Federation contractors, leaving her to try and recruit Nim by trying to free him from prison, only for Nim to throw her in his cell for a time. But as for Nim, he gets pulled into the conflict against the Federation when the droid forces find his hideout. And it is right then our 3 main heroes, with the help of the toy Darian named Reddy, unite together to fight the Battle for Naboo. It's a basic enough premise, but it works. Now for the gameplay, which as I've said before, is very similar to Factor 5's Rogue Squadron, in that it is a simple arcade-style action aerial combat game. However, there are some notable differences in that, unlike Rogue Squadron, there is a slightly better targeting system that shows the player health and shield meters to determine how long a ship stays alive, and there is a sniper zoom allowing the player to get better sight from distant foes headed their way. Another difference is that each ship is unique to the 3 main characters. Rhys has the standard N-1 Starfighter with regular torpedoes, Vanna has the Guardian Mantis with tagging missiles that replenish over time, and Nim with this Havoc equipped with ion bombs that again replenish over time. All of them matching each character, and with more ship to unlock as extras, there's plenty to work with. Speaking of extras, besides starships, more additional levels can be unlocked once you earn gold medals for most stages. Though the PC version seems to be missing the multiplayer modes on the console versions, not even featuring online support, which is a little bit disappointing, but not a huge deal for me as I've done mostly single player these days. For a simplistic arcade-style shooter set in the Star Wars galaxy, the game does its job in playing pretty well on the PC, as the frame rate runs pretty smoothly, which improved upon the slowdown I experienced on the PlayStation 2 version sometimes. Though I will say on both systems, it looked pretty damn solid as well, at least for its time. But one thing that is pretty dang disappointing to me is that the campaign is fairly short, but does give at least some replay value by going back to levels and unlocking playable missions and ships. Still, it doesn't last too long even then. In the end though, hold the phone, Ninty fan of the past, Ninty fan of the future from 2023 here to briefly discuss with you the Xbox version of the game, and while it's the same game, there are some differences. For one, the Xbox version, as advertised, has a more stable frame rate than the PlayStation 2 version. Though keep in mind I played it backwards compatible on Xbox One X and not classic Xbox hardware, but nevertheless, it's at a stable frame rate so no complaints. In addition, there are also some slight visual improvements. Nothing that pushes the Xbox to the limit, but still, you can see it by some of the shine on the ships. 2. Some new content that can only be found on the Xbox version, which includes some new bonus levels such as Droid Hunt, where you play as Vanna Sage as she recovers mining droids from a reactivated Trade Federation outpost on the volcanic planet of Eos. There is even some unlockable multiplayer variants of some levels, if you have the patience to get them. But to end it all, the Xbox version is still the same game as it was on the PlayStation 2 and PC, as I have said before, with it still being a fairly short game as mentioned before. All things considered though, I'd lean on playing the Xbox version slightly more for a definitive version due to the extra content and frame rate. Between this and the PC version on Steam, though, can't go wrong when it goes on sale on digital stores.
And since we have both Starfighter games playable on modern hardware, could we please do the same for these last two Rogue Squadron games?